So intoli Jakupenia, but the project itself is not anything ambiguous, just showing us some few stuffs. Okay. Maybe I should start like this. I should start maybe on a new slate. And please, as you all know, Mama, there are questions from time to time. Lower our professors were, and I know that everyone is capable. So the topic is something we all know about. However, we are going a little more in depth into it. So topic kita and discuss on the topic lórí vulnerability management. Vulnerability management, which is a topic everybody knows about. Vulnerability management, and for context or for a bit of revision, vulnerabilities as a pé òun ni weaknesses tá a lè rí nínú different digital assets. Now, we now identified the three kinds of assets that we have. We identified the three kinds of assets tá a ní. As a pé according to ISO, and this is not me, tẹ́ bá lọ wo ISO tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa inventory assets, inventory or other related or associated assets, tẹ́ bá lọ wo ó identify three kinds of assets. Ó ní any physical assets, any information or data asset, and any virtual assets. Now, tẹ́ bá wo àwọn physical assets were laptops, servers, networking hardwares, removable media, and so on. All of these are physical assets. Information assets, àwọn pa ní PIIs, PHIs, PTs, nǹkan kan báwọn PCIs, gbogbo eléyìí fall under information or data assets. Then virtual assets are ní our cloud instances, virtual machines, and so on. So we said that on these devices you can identify the vulnerabilities that are there using vulnerability scanners. For example, a lè lo tá bá fẹ́ scan àwọn laptops wa, servers nǹkan kan, excuse me, kí la lè lo? A lè lo tools like Nessus. Let me just, maybe I'll just pick this three and then come and discuss a lot again. Let me just reduce that a bit. Okay, as a plan, three kinds of assets: physical assets, information or data assets, and virtual assets. Then we know that all of these assets can be vulnerable. It is now our role as security analysts to analyze or to assess their vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities ó wà nínú àwọn physical assets, èwo ló wà nínú àwọn data assets, èwo ló wà nínú àwọn virtual assets. So báwo la ṣe máa discover àwọn vulnerabilities tó wà lórí wọn? We said for physical assets, we can use tools like Nessus, which everybody knows how to use. Nessus tool, a lè lo Nessus láti fi scan àwọn physical assets wa. Kí la máa lò láti fi scan IP address wọn? We use their IP addresses to scan each one of them, and it is easy, just passing their IP address into the Nessus scanner, and it scans, gives you the vulnerabilities, tells you the description of the vulnerabilities, and also give you a remediation to that vulnerability. Àwa sọ pé you can use this approach for physical assets, but you cannot use this approach for cloud assets, because how would you scan a cloud asset? You cannot use Nessus to scan cloud assets. Rather, we have tools like Prowler. So Prowler is a cloud tool tá a lè fi scan cloud assets wa. Ẹ má gbàgbé nígbà tá à ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa vulnerabilities, a sọ pé oríṣiríṣi ọ̀nà ni vulnerabilities gbà wá. Vulnerabilities could be weaknesses in configuration. Pé bọ́n ṣe configure gan kò wà correct. Ó lè jẹ́ vulnerability in terms of compliance. Pé comply. It could be vulnerability in terms of compliance. It could also be vulnerability in terms of open ports. Àwọn ports tí ó wà necessary kó wà opened. So vulnerabilities lè gba àwọn ojú yìí wá. Please, if at any point you don't understand what I'm saying, àbí ó ti dàrú at some point, you can put your questions in the tab, or you can also interject, so I'll just come back again. So àwọn ètí mò ń sọ yìí mò ń fi ṣe background discussion wa. I believe everybody knows about it already. So àti máàpù a sọ pé for a lè fi Nexus ká fi scan àwọn physical assets, but ẹ lè fi Nexus yẹn kẹ́ fi scan àwọn virtual assets yẹn. Okay, ẹ lè máa wonder pé okay, if we use Nexus to scan physical assets, kí la fi máa scan àwọn information data assets? How do you scan them? You don't scan them. These are data assets, and the only thing we are looking at is compliance. Does it comply to the standards that is set for collection and use of datas like this? Again, for any example, when you go to Facebook, before signing up on Facebook informs you of a certain privacy policy when you click on it. So it tells you what is the privacy policy and what does it cover. Here it tells you that this privacy policy explains how we collect, use, and share your information. Why does Facebook have to tell us how they collect, use, and share our information? Why do they have to tell us? It is because they have to comply to standards like GDPR laws. They have to comply to GDPR. They have to comply to CCPA. They have to comply to which other one? There's another one. So if in an event that they collect credit card numbers from where out of run hard and so on, they have to comply to PCI DSS. So now these are compliance. We said vulnerabilities can come in form of weaknesses in configuration, compliance, open port. Now vulnerabilities that work well on data assets would be compliance. Then atuni nǹkan tá à ń pè ní OWASP 10. OWASP 10. This is Open Web Application Security Protocol 10. So ìgbà tí mo rí secure code yìí, this is how I had to add it. Secure code yẹn, for you to write code for a web application, o gbọ́dọ̀ follow OWASP 10. Kí ni OWASP 10 yìí? Ó ń túmọ̀ sí pé there are methods or methodologies tá a fẹ́ kẹ́ lò whenever you're writing your code that ensures that it is secure. So this is how you assess for information assets, compliance law. Then into discussion why ni wa dá lé lórí gangan is how do you assess for vulnerabilities of cloud assets? Fún bí àpẹẹrẹ, you have an AWS console or an Azure console or GCP, or you have Linode, or you have Vercel. You have all of these different cloud providers. Now you have a console with them. you have a space with them. You're running a server on these providers. You're running a server, you're running a bucket, you're running a monitoring system. How do you ensure that your cloud asset is not vulnerable? Is not vulnerable. How do you ensure this? We'll have to discuss later. Let's go. How do we go about it? We have before we move forward, what are we trying to do? We're trying to run a vulnerability assessment. Now, you know that vulnerability assessment is a phase of the vulnerability management cycle. Vulnerability assessment is a phase of the vulnerability management life cycle. How many phases do we have in the vulnerability management life cycle? According to ISO, when talking about technical vulnerability management, yes, the vulnerability management life cycle. It might be no question, I should go straight to the point, but just to refresh our memories. Is there a question? Okay. So now, this is the vulnerability management life cycle according to ISO. Whenever you are let us see a job role that talks about vulnerability management. I want to share those about vulnerability. Carry job description to so it is easier to reference. So I'll just compare some of these roles and see what they have in common. After establishing the vulnerability management life cycle. Okay. Now, Teba will show you. This is a vulnerability analyst, and it says robot health technology assisting case market financial to recruit environments on a 12-month contract basis. Okay, now, what is the role? The vulnerability analyst will have to conduct threat and vulnerability assessments to identify potential security risks. You need to be able to analyze and prioritize vulnerabilities based on risk and potential impact, develop and implement remediation plans to mitigate identified vulnerabilities, collaborate with the IT team to implement. So conduct vulnerability scanning to identify and validate weaknesses, provide recommendations for. I believe everybody here can perform this role like successfully. Actually, you can signify. There are additional information on a 5-year system, program management, vulnerability management, and frameworks. Now on continue to establish a link. Let's compare that to another role. This is a security engineer role, and maybe it has some of your responsibilities includes analyzing Please, if you have any questions, please you can put it in the chat box. And this class is also recorded. Thank you very much. I would, from time to time, look at the chat box and answer or reply to your questions. So this is a vulnerability engineer role, and I just hope I've not skipped. Okay, no, it's this. It says you have to analyze potential threats and vulnerabilities to inform risk management strategies. You need to be able to develop and implement security controls to mitigate identified risk. Very important. What other parts? Let's see another job description. This says that what you'll be doing hands-on research across 0 days and end days with parts people. So building internal tooling for automated vulnerability discovery, exploit validation and detection. 2 years hands-on vulnerability research. Now, the aim, now the goal of all of this is knowing how to perform a vulnerability scan. Now you would see that some roles mentioned that you need to do something around the risk. You need to be able to analyze and prioritize vulnerabilities based on risk and potential impact. You see, this part is also a part of vulnerability management. What am I trying to say? Let us refer back to the vulnerability management lifecycle. And this is according to ISO, and you can have access to this document. I can put that in the chat box. According to ISO, vulnerability, when you want to scan for vulnerabilities on different assets, you just don't jump into scanning it. There are steps to it. There are steps to it, and there are steps after it. What do I mean? The first phase of the vulnerability management lifecycle is for you to identify. This identification it means you need to know what assets la fẹ́ wo vulnerabilities to one be, because it would be illogical that you have a Nessus scanner and you want to scan all the assets in the organization, including cloud assets, including data assets. So whenever you want to conduct a physical vulnerability assessment, the first phase in any vulnerability management is to first identify. That is identification of assets. Identify the assets. This is why I shared with you sometimes ago an asset register. There is an asset register. This template allows you to put in all the assets that you have into one consolidated list. So this is what it looks like. You would see that underneath, this is what the asset register looks like. You have the hardwares. So these are your networking devices. You see that you have firewalls, you have inverters, IoT devices, laptops, you find routers, remote media, smartphones, WLANs. All of these would have an IP address. So once it's under hardware or physical assets, under information assets, you see that you have different kinds of information of assets there. You see that you have database, you have research information, you have storage information, user manuals, training materials. Gbogbo àwọn ilé lè fi Nessus scanning irú àwọn data by irú àwọn assets by. Software. Tẹ́bá wo under software, ẹ máa rí pé a ní oríṣiríṣi àwọn softwares, DNS server, Active Directory server, a ní web server, nǹkankan. These are another kinds of assets. Services, ẹ máa rí oríṣiríṣi services. So what is not here, what is missing here are just the cloud assets. So you can also create yours. You can just duplicate this and change that to a cloud asset. So that is the first phase of the vulnerability management lifecycle according to ISO. You identify what assets are about to be scanned. The second phase mentions that this is where you then assess for the vulnerabilities. You assess asset register. Okay, copy of that. Manika send us channel, so you have it, So the second phase of the vulnerability management lifecycle is this is now where you scan. If that's around scan walele using the different tools that you have. Now, I would like to digress a bit and I want to ask a question. And Entimbako calling you. Iyawo Motayo, unfortunately I'm seeing you first. Aṣàlàyé nípa assessment. Ọ̀nà mélòó la lè gba assess fún vulnerabilities? And what are they? Ẹ̀yin mo kọ́kọ́ rí. I'm sorry, ẹ má ní mo tún ti dé. Ọ̀nà mélòó la lè gba assess fún vulnerabilities? Let me duplicate this page and let me now this is just to explain the vulnerability management lifecycle, the lifecycle. So now under the lifecycle, ISO says if you want to pass the ISO audit on technical vulnerability management, how do you comply to it? The first thing is have effective asset management and know what your assets or what assets you have, which is the first phase, identification. Have an asset management process that includes an asset register. That's the first phase. LKG, you have to configure the asset properly before use. Our assets ain't got to so implement an asset management process that configures assets before they are used. Then Eleketa, which is the second phase of the vulnerability lifecycle, have steps in place to identify vulnerabilities. This is where you then scan. Put in place the ability to identify vulnerabilities. Examples include using threat intel, vulnerability scanners, pen tests, being part of a specialist group, and forums and vendor newsletters and alerts. Vulnerability scanners. Lama scanning, lafima assess if there are vulnerabilities. Gẹ́gẹ́ bá ṣe lo Nexus fún àwọn network assets, fún àwọn physical assets or hardware assets. Orúkọ tó bá wù yín kẹ́ pé wọ́n. A máa lo Nexus. But for cloud now, for cloud assets, we are now going to be using a different tool called Prowler. Intogbo Adebilele, Prowler. So let's now get into it. I think in our last meeting we were trying to access Prowler via the CLI, but I found that some of the components of it were missing and has not been updated. So I opted for the easier route, which I believe everybody would like. Is the web application version of Prowler. So before we delve into it, you can just type in GitHub Prowler, just like this. Type in GitHub Prowler into your browser. You find Prowler is the world's most widely used open source cloud security software. So click on that. This takes you to the Prowler repo, and you find the compilation of the tool here. And let's just have a quick read about it. It says Prowler is an open source cloud security platform trusted by thousands to automate security and compliance in any cloud environment. So let's look at what Prowler can do. So Prowler includes hundreds of built-in controls to ensure compliance with standards and frameworks, including the threat score, industry standards of different frameworks here, different regulatory compliance. So Prowler is quite comprehensive in such a way that it will tell you the vulnerabilities that you have on your cloud assets, gives you the description, tells you the remediation process, tells you what level of compliance you have to certain regulatory frameworks or standards. Gbogbo kìíní yìí la fún wa lẹ́yọ kọ̀ọ̀kan. but how do you configure? So let us start with its configuration. How would you have Prowler so that you can use it to scan your cloud assets? So, but of course, the first thing is you need to have a cloud console, and for this we'll be using our AWS platform. I believe everybody has an AWS console. If you don't have, there's a video on my YouTube channel where you can see how to create your own AWS console. It is free, and you'll be given a $200 credit for using the AWS platform. So yes, this is our AWS cloud console. This is a fresh one. I just newly created it, and it is called New Tech. This is the name of the console, New Tech. So what happens here? We have multiple users that can have access to this console. We have multiple users that are engaged in this particular project. But as a security analyst, what are the things we want to ensure? We want to ensure that we analyze for potential threats and vulnerabilities to inform risk management strategies. This is one of your roles. Aside that, you also need to develop and implement security controls to mitigate the identified risk. So you also need to collaborate with other security analysts and engineers to maintain a secure IT infrastructure. So all in all, you'd see that we are trying to secure our cloud assets. This is why another question that can come up during an interview is how or what function, and I would like you all to answer this question. What function of the NIST CSF does vulnerability management map to? What function? Exactly. Yes, it can be used. Yes, it can be used. So what exactly falls under the category of an asset? What exactly falls under the category of an asset? Question was straightforward, kind of. Answer. So now, detect function. Perfect. Now, it can map to more than one function. What other function? Map below. Map below detect function, correct? What other function can it map to? What other function? Identify, correct? Yes. Map identify, correct? Identify, detect. What other function of NIST? Map mitigate. I don't think mitigate is a function of the NIST CSF. Yes, protect. It also maps to protect, because inadvertently you would also be protecting devices by assessing their vulnerabilities and providing remediation to them. So you are, in turn protecting it. So identify, detect, protect. Assess is not a function of CSF. Please let us refer back to our NIST CSF document. Please refer to the NIST CSF document. We have just six functions. GIPDR: govern, identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So actually it's okay. Map pẹ̀lú respond. Only map pẹ̀lú respond. Beba she prove vesini. So that's just by the way. So let's continue. So please refer back to this document. Help. Let me just share the link with you. Yes. Respond. No, only lock pẹ̀lú respond. Only lock pẹ̀lú respond. Professor Adiyanju. So now let's get right into it. So now, so we are giving you an overview of what Prowler is. Now let us talk about its configuration and how to start Prowler. So let me log out from this and sign out. This is my account. So you can just go to this website, cloud.prowler.com/sign-in. I can share that with you. And I'll see your website here. Then you create an account with Prowler. Just create an account with them and you can sign in. I'll sign in with my username and password. So to create accounts, you just log in. So I need verification, I send verification code, CORE, what's it called? CORE, email in, just verify and should be good to go. So now this is Prowler. It's an industry recognized tool. So in fact, having a skill or knowing how to use Prowler will improve resume, because most organizations now you see that they are integrating very fastly into the cloud environments. Multiple projects are going on the cloud, multiple AI deployments on the cloud, and one of the major concerns around AI is security. So if you can come in terms of AI servers that are being deployed on the cloud, and you can ensure for its security, it's a really great one. So how do we go around this jargons? Just looks scary, kind of, but it's quite simple. The first step, like actually step by step. I take actually step by step. Steps. So step one. Step one is to set up your Prowler, which we've done. So set up Prowler console. That's the first step to assessing or scanning for our cloud vulnerabilities. So the first step is set up Prowler console. Step two, you need to configure, or let's say create an IAM user. You need to create an IAM user. What does this IAM user? Kí ni wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe? Kí ni iṣẹ́ IAM user yìí? Iṣẹ́ IAM user yìí ni pé ó fẹ́ jẹ́ account tá a fi máa scan ní console wa. A gbọ́dọ̀ ṣa èèyàn kan lẹ́sà. A gbọ́dọ̀ dá ìyàsọ́tọ̀ pé ẹni yìí la máa wà in charge of scanning, because we'll be assigning to them a certain level of permission. So how do we go about it? So this user would attach 3 policies to this person. The security audit policy. I'll show you all of this. I'm just giving you an overview of what we'll do. Security audit policy. The view only access. And a Prowler permission, or a Prowler policy. So let us go about this step. Let us create an IAM user and let us give this user these 3 policies. How shall we? Yes, this session is recorded. So can you show us how you set up Prowler again? Can this project come at number 2/3 of our GitHub? Yes, absolutely. In fact, we have rearranged the whole project, and let me show you. What do I have? Let me put on GitHub. We have rearranged the whole project. Let's see, profile. So now you'd see that we have vulnerability assessment for physical assets. We have vulnerability assessment for virtual assets. We now have penetration testing. Then what's the other thing? We now have I think I can't get hold of it, but we've changed some of those things. We've added to it. So now let's go back to Prowler again. So I shared a link. There's a link I shared with you in the chat box here. So go to this website, cloud.prowler.com, then you sign in. You create an account with Prowler. So once you've created an account with them, you sign in. It's easy as this. Once you've created an account, it takes you to this page. Yours might be blank. It will look blank. Nothing of such, nothing like this, no colors like this on it. But how do we go about it? First thing tá a máa ṣe, a ti ṣàlàyé pé ká lọ create a IAM user lórí cloud wa. You can do this on Azure, you can do this on AWS, do this on there's this cloud platform called Railway, there is Vercel. You can do it on any of this console. Fún ẹ̀yin web developers now. So, and you are hosting on maybe Vercel. This is another way for you to assess if there are potential vulnerabilities on the applications you've developed. So now let's go. You know that for us to create an IAM user, we're going to be using the IAM service. So I'll click on IAM to then we'll create a new user. I might be no question about just trying to make it more comprehensive. So we'll click on IAM user. I know that you're seeing this and I know you know what to do. Security recommendation, every account should have MFA integrated. Please enable your MFAs. So I'll come to IAM users here and we'll say create user. So now let's create a new user and let's call this user Prowler user or scan user. Then you don't need to provide AWS management console for this person. Let's just click on next, and of course next, and create user. We've created a user, easy peasy, right? Let's see. Yeah, sure. The session is recorded. Please let me confirm again. Yes, the session is recorded. It's recorded, and you get it at the end. I mentioned GitHub Prowler. Yes, I mentioned that, and that was to show you the GitHub documentation of this open source tool, because you know I told you it's an open source tool. So this is the repo that talks about it, so you can just have a read about it. Okay, as a query, first step. The first step ni pé ká create a IAM user. The second step one or the sub second step is to attach these policies to this IAM user that we've created now. So how do we go about that? So this is the user, Prowler scan user. I'll click on that. This is the user. Then how do I attach a policy to this person? You know, we have two methods of assigning permissions. What are they? To the beautiful question though. Ọ̀nà mélòó la lè gba attach permissions fún user lórí cloud? I'm saying Professor Adeyanju. Ọ̀nà mélòó la lè gba assign permissions fún, and what are they? And professors were down. I'm seeing Professor Lasukami. Professor Lasukami, please go on, sir.
Good morning, sir. So, yes, direct attach.
Direct attachment using the default policies created by AWS,
Exactly.
correct?
Yes. And by custom.
You're correct, customized one, but the appropriate name using inline policies. Thank you very much.
Inline policy, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So now Ejeka had the permissions. Don't forget, we are to add two permissions, or three rather. Security audit policy, then view only access policy. So we'll say add permission, then we'll say add permissions here. Then we'll say attach policies directly. And then we have security audits. Security audits. Yes, this is the security audits policy. I'll check that. That's the first one. The second one is the view only access. This is the view only access. I'll check that as well. Then I'll click on next. Then I'll add permissions. Good. So as you can see, I've added two of the three permissions. The third one is the Prowler policy. Now the Prowler policy, you have to go back to GitHub on the Prowler's repo. You find permissions like this. MRD permissions line. So you click on permissions. Now it takes you to this place. Then you find Prowler additions policy.json. You click on it. Agbe the script bar. Emma Beru. I know when some of you see code about you don't have to memorize anything, you don't have to write any code. Just copy everything you're seeing here. Just copy everything from top to bottom. Just copy everything. Then come back to the same user. We're still assigning permissions to that user. Then under add permissions, you want to say create inline policy. Let's click on create inline policy. Then you find visual, you find JSON. Click on JSON. Then let's paste what we had copied. So you'd see that by default you find this there. So first of all, delete everything you have there. Then paste what you had copied. After that, you click on next. So it will take some time for this to process. Hold on, when you click on next, it might be slow a little bit. Let's give it some few seconds. By creating groups, yeah, by creating groups, so you can do that as well. The YouTube channel will be shared with you. So let's see. Am I writing anything wrong? Nothing. So man, take your time because on try let's understand the code that so let's give it a few more seconds. So all we just want to do is to save this policy, and when you save it, immediately it is attached to that IAM user. So now, what's it? Then policy name. We can now say, we can give this a name. Say Prowler additions policy, something like that. Then you say create policy. Okay. You will now see that this guy, this Prowler scan user, the user we created, now has 3 permissions: the Prowler additions permission, security audit, and view only access permission. What's the name of that? Good. That is the second step in our scan, in our vulnerability scan. Second step in here. Now, third step. Then we'll run our scan. Or before that, we need to set up a provider. We need to set up a provider on Prowler. So how do we set it up? Now I had set it up before, but Kajo me to sign up sorry Prowler. If you have anyone, please you can signify. So now when you're on your Prowler dashboard like this, the Battle dashboard nearby, you'd find so you would find this configuration aspect. The configuration you click on this configuration, you find providers. find providers like this. You click on providers. That's one there. Yes, you see that I've already had a scan, so that it doesn't take our time. So you now want to add a new provider. Click on add provider. Now you see that you have different cloud providers here. You have AWS, you have GCP, Microsoft Azure, Microsoft 365, MongoDB, Kubernetes, GitHub. You can run your scan on all of this. Vercel, Okta. I believe there are still more. If you push in scan, I think there's still more. Okay, I think that's all. So Vercel, Cloudflare, one can you think of? So for this, we're using AWS. Click on AWS. So now, what do you want to do? What you need to do is to add a single AWS account. Let me go back. You click on add a single AWS cloud account. What is that single AWS cloud account that we want to add? It is that UIM user that we've created. So we click on that. Then Umbere account ID. We all know what the account ID is. If you look at the top here, this is the account ID. See, you copy your account ID like this, and you go back to your Prowler. Where's the guy? Here. Then you paste it. It might reject mine because I've used it before. This is. Then you click on next. You see, provider already exists. So now, Tebat one Shilo. I don't know. Should I delete what I have already and we'll restart it? Do you think that's better? The scan usually takes around 5-10 minutes max. Do you suggest that I delete what I have already so that I can show you the process
Yes.
of this? Okay, let me delete this one because I already connected it. Let me delete this current provider. Okay, good. So this is what you would have when you get started newly. So you say get started. Of course, we choose AWS. Then we'll say add a single AWS cloud account. Then account ID. Don't forget, you come here to copy your account ID. Then paste that. Then click on next. So now, are you using an IAM role or you're using credentials? So I prefer to use credentials. Now if I'm using credentials, I have to provide an AWS access key ID and an AWS secret access key. Where do you get this from? Good. So this is what you do. You go back to your, irrespective of the console you're using, Azure Neo, Okta Neo, Cloudflare Neo, Linode Neo, you have it. So you come back to your IAM users. Then you come to the Prowler scan user, the user you have created for the scan. You click on the user. You click on the user. Then you come to security credentials here. You scroll all the way down until you find access keys. Then you say create access key. Access key best practices and alternatives. So Kilafello, to be safe, just say other. Then click on next. You don't need a tag, just click on create access key. By default, when you create an access key, it gives you a security access key or a secret access key. So for the access key ID, you copy this, go back to your Prowler here, you paste your AWS access key ID, then the secret access key, this is it, you copy this as well and you paste that here. Certificate bound, easy. Then you authenticate. Click on authenticate, save. So this is the last part. Then you click on check connection. Let's see if it will connect. Good. Only connection validated. So nígbà tí connection ti wà validated by yín, what do you now have to do? You want to run a single scan. Then you say launch scan. Bye. So because like I said, I'm using the what's it called, the the GUI, the CLI Momando Tele. So because I've launched the scan before, to launch the scan tele, so I think I have access to just one scan, one token, I believe. So you run the scan. The button one run scan here. I'll show you the final output, what it looks like. So to run scan here, you have to click on view jobs. So you find in progress, you find completed, you find schedule. Tabarento now run scan yellow, please let us know so we can share your screen and we'll see how it's going. So you find in progress, so your scan definitely will be here under in progress. Let me see. I don't think I'm supposed to have like a restriction actually. I don't think I'm supposed to have a restriction. Let me go back to this. So Tabatian run scan here, the general overview will be shared here, and it is something you can download. I have the downloaded version already, so I've downloaded it already. So this is what you would have. You have a Prowler report. So let you click on launch scan. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to do anything else except you want to switch to compliance. That's often this is the level of compliance you've had for certain standards like ISO, PCI DSS, HIPAA, and so on. NIST 853, NIST 861, all of these different frameworks. The NIST CSF, the MITRE, also compliance level 10 fún gbogbo àwọn standards here as a compliance level in percentages. So now let us look at the output of what I have. Now this is the Prowler threat score reports. This is the final report. You see that you don't have to do much, and then there's a lot of things I wanted to explain on that thing. There's quite a lot of things I wanted to explain. Let me see. Please can I get into one of the chats? Are you taking a screenshot for the templates? Will all this be done by the person carrying out variety scanning, or he will just request for the information needed and go to Prowler for the analysis? Yes. All of this will be done by you as a security analyst. All of this will be done. So am I taking screenshots for the templates? No sir. No, sir, I'm not taking screenshots. Please can I get the link to Okay, this will be shared to you. So I have know how to. So I didn't know that. Let me continue with Google. So if I enter join Watele, this can be a good opportunity. So let me use another account to sign in into Prowler. I want to show you there are some things that are quite important. Maybe outputting to exceed what you're seeing in the report. So let me see if okay. I don't know. Actually. I don't have any question on it. Okay. Please let me just try to sort this. Okay. Okay. I think we're in here. I think we're in. So maybe what I'll just do is let me quickly configure the provider for this. And let's get started. Let's use AWS. Let's have a single cloud account. And let me see if I can still grab. Yes, this is the account ID. Let's click on next via credentials. So let us copy the AWS access key ID, and let's copy the secret access key. Good. Let's authenticate. Then let's check connection. Please connect. Okay, good. Now let's launch scan. Don't tell me I need to token. Okay, good. So now the single scan is launched successfully. So now let us look at it. You'd see that this is the cloud assets. It is connected. That is, Prowler is connected to your AWS now, and it can easily run the scan and try to see all your configurations and tell you if it complies, if it has any issues. When you click on view jobs, first click on view jobs, you see in progress, you see completed, you see schedule. So this is trying to tell us when you go back again, you can add another provider. Actually create another AWS provider, but with a different account ID. Can a different account ID, because this one works for all the consoles that you might have within this particular ID. So you understand? Then you can add other providers. You can scan Microsoft Azure and other platforms as you're scanning this one too. So now for the one you're scanning, you can click on view jobs like this. You see that it's still be in progress. Tobat were completed, I've also completed, scheduled, it could be scheduled. So in progress, this will show you how far it has gone. Now it is 10% done, 10% done. And when you come to overview, I'm not showing any progress. Maybe overview, I'm not showing any progress. How far it is going here yet. Bushing law. It will take like 5 minutes for it to scan. 5-10 minutes approximately. If it are day, please, do we have any questions? Please, you can put your questions in the chat box. I am seeing two scripts on GitHub. Which one will I copy? Okay, thank you very much. For the GitHub there, you'll see two scripts actually. You'll see the Prowler additions policy. You see Prowler Azure custom role policy. So you're choosing the first one, which is the Prowler additions policy. I believe this is the script you're talking about, sir. Say clearly. So you're choosing the first one. So all of these will be handled by you, Sherry. That's not even all. More will be handled by you. More will be handled by you because what you're just doing now is just you're fulfilling. What are you fulfilling now? What you're fulfilling is this particular role. The vulnerability analyst will conduct threat and vulnerability assessment to identify potential security risks. This is what you are doing now. So, the next thing you have to do is analyze and prioritize vulnerability based on risk and potential impact. What are you trying to do? You are going now to the third phase of the vulnerability management lifecycle, which is to prioritize. And when you read about prioritization, it says under prioritization, you run a risk assessment and prioritize found vulnerabilities. This is where you now employ the use of a risk register. So you have a risk register. Let me see. I think I still have the document. Yes. Yeah. You have a risk register. Ibi tẹ́ máa document gbogbo àwọn vulnerabilities tẹ́ ti rí. Ẹ máa document wọn síbẹ̀. Ẹ máa sọ impact level wọn. Ẹ máa sọ what other thing la máa sọ, Professor Kọ́láwọlé? Níbi risk register kí là ń wá? A máa mọ impact level àti
Impact and probability.
and probability level. Then a máa mọ risk score from there. Tá bá ti mọ risk score, òun lá inform the mitigation tá máa lò, mitigation strategy tá máa lò, just like what you have here. The impact level, the likelihood level, the risk rating, the risk category. For risk category yẹn, ẹ máa classify yẹn according to what category of risk does this vulnerability belong to. Ẹ máa ṣe categorization yẹn. Ó lè jẹ́ pé ẹ rí pé regulatory compliance wà ń bẹ̀. This is why I was saying that vulnerabilities lè gbé oríṣiríṣi ojú wá. It could be system misconfiguration. It could be compliance. It could be denial of service. It could be access control failure or third-party risk. Then, risk response strategy. How do you then intend, or what do you suggest to us? Because it is you are just there as a security analyst. You just have to prefer and recommend solutions. You are not the one to approve. Ẹ jẹ́ ká ṣọ́ra. Ó lè jáde during interview. You cannot approve remediation strategy. You cannot approve recommendations. You can only recommend, and you submit to the CISO. The CISO or the security manager then gives approval. So you can say for this particular risk, your suggested risk response strategy is to maybe mitigate, or you want to do an avoidance. Then you tell us why. You give us the mitigation notes. You tell us why. Then you give the status. It is still open. Yeah, it's still open. Or KFC in review by the CISO. What dates did you identify it, and when is the next review date? So, bóyá ká ṣàlàyé this risk part in maybe tomorrow. It will help. But today, ẹ jẹ́ complete assessment. So, where we are still at is identifying the vulnerabilities. Identifying the assets, ẹ jọ̀ọ́, ó yàtọ̀ sí identifying the vulnerabilities, please. So here, the second phase, which is vulnerability assessment, you are trying to identify the vulnerabilities using a vulnerability scanner. Then the next phase, according to this role, is then for you to analyze and prioritize vulnerabilities based on risk and potential impact, which we are going to be talking about tomorrow. But for now, ẹ jẹ́ complete scan wa. Ibolode under providers. Let's see how far it is gone. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ tẹ́ bá ní questions. Okay. Okay, somebody says, please, do you teach GitHub today or previous classes? Previous classes. So if I am using my laptop and do all the sign up, can I run the cloud without a cloud asset, or do I? You need to have a cloud asset. You can't just run it without having a cloud asset. So you need to first start by creating an AWS cloud console. Just create some few assets on it. It's free. Yeah. So can you please send us the risk register template? Okay, Yawa. I must send this here. Yawa Rashida, I talk about send the risk register. Yeah, come now bring a link to the meeting. Then will the project templates be dropped, sir? For this, yes, I will drop it. I will drop the project template. Okay, let's see how far the scan has gone. View jobs. Let's see. In progress. Oh, none in progress. Completed. Okay, now it is completed. Good. So now you see that it took 6 minutes, 22 seconds for it to scan. Now let's click on overview. Yes. Now this is the overview of the scan. You'd see that the cloud console pose a moderate risk. You see, this is why iṣẹ́ wa tẹ́ bá wo àwọn iṣẹ́ yìí, you think adúró kìíní ni mo ní láti ṣe, whereas you have a single tool that can do all of this for you. All you just need to do is to interpret for non-technical stakeholders. Just interpret the output, the results you're having to non-technical stakeholders. Shikina. But just know how to use the tool, understand what you're looking for, understand the concept, know what threats, vulnerabilities are, know what risks are, and priority. So, check findings had a total of 446 findings, out of which 304 failed the findings and 142 passed. Or classify gbogbo àwọn fails yẹn, or classify wọn according to their criticality, risk severity. We have about 1% critical risk, 25% high, 40% medium. You see that this scanner is just like Nessus when you look at it. Torí Nessus now òun náà classify àwọn risk yẹn based on severity level. So now this is a summary. So now the resource inventory tí ó lò tó fi scan àwọn resources tó scan or òun ni ó wo security, ó wo artificial intelligence, ó wo monitoring, ó wo identity and access management, ó wo àwọn elastic compute cloud wa, ó wo S3 buckets wa, governance frameworks, networks and so on. Then ó wo attack surface. We have one internet exposed resources. We have 4 exposed secrets. So you can click on each one of them to understand it better. This is one very good thing about Prowler, and like every other scanning tool, have any detailed explanation of everything to identify. So you have a graph, which is usually good when trying to explain to non-technical stakeholders. So àwọn ètò sọ pé ó wà exposed, ó sọ pé IAM user does not use long-lived credentials to access services other than IAM or the STS, this simple clinical service. Then the Amazon Massey is enabled, which is not supposed to be. Gbogbo kini yìí taba enable MFA ẹ máa rí pé gbogbo kini máa kúrò. So let's see how you can remediate that. If you click on this, for example, so you see that we have 3 users that creates. When you go back to our console, here, when you go back to IAM users, you see that we have 3 users: IAM user admin, Neotech admin, Prowler scan user. So this is to tell you that even if you have hundreds of users, just that one user that you've created to scan would scan all of the users you have. You'd see that these vulnerabilities exist on all the 3 devices, all the 3 consoles. So now when I click on this user, for example, you says IAM user does not use long-lived credentials to access services other than IAM or XCS. Now, that is the name of the vulnerability. When you look at the risk, it says persistent access keys enabled attacker persistence and replay. Stolen keys allow off-network API calls for data exfiltration. These are the keyword: data exfiltration, privilege exchanges, and destructive actions impacting confidentiality, integrity, as well as availability at the end of the day. So all of this information are there. Most important part, remediation. How do we remediate this? This is where you pass this information, mitigation notes. If you say we should mitigate it, give us the notes. So what you need to do is to adopt temporary credentials via IAM rules and federation for humans and workloads. Remove or restrict long-term keys. If avoidable, apply least privilege. Require MFA. Rotate aggressively and monitor usage. So prefer short session durations and session conditions to limit blast radius. So what this is just telling us essentially is, instead of creating IAM users, it is better that we create IAM rules, because IAM rules are short-lived, but IAM users are longer-lived, and it could potentially cause compromise because of keys. So, but one way to actually evade or remediate is to enable MFA. Taba enable MFA, MRP bubu issues in my problem. That's just a bit of all these things. Let's go back to our overview. So this is the general overview. You see latest new field findings. So if it are need gangania, then you look at the threat map. So I'll load the threat map here according to regions. Don't forget we have different regions, and you will be most concerned about the region where you have your assets set up. For example, now our asset is set up globally. If our assets are specifically dominated in North Virginia, for example, or in Osaka, Ibel Namafe focus the lorry. So you just check the region that is of concern to us, EUS, this region, one location, threat map here. So risk radar is just pointing to what aspects of risk gbogbo risk láti identify èwo ló bá wa wí nígbà tí mo scan it down. So you have this information. So you would see that it's quite comprehensive what Prowler can do. Now let's move forward. Let's move to under compliance. This takes time to take time to do for any information about compliance. So let's see if it has been able to prepare it. Okay, the scan has no compliance data available yet. Please select a different one. So as you show up, I take the time there. It's your phone time. So let's go to other things, and so you can download your reports. You can download the CSV format, or you download the PDF format. I download it. So let's come to our findings here. Let's come to findings. So let's see. So this is a scan reports. This is, yes. So this is our scan reports. MRP. Before I need visual representation. Okay, this is our compliance score by sections. In terms of IAM, I need 48%. In terms of attack surface, 99.7%. Log and monitoring 0. Encryption 0. So requirement index. So if we need detailed reports, because we scan every aspect of our console, every aspect we scan. Top requirements by level of risk. Found 3 critical field requirements that require immediate attention. Now, this is a question to all of us. What is the standard response time to critical risks? Professor Lasukami, what is the standard response time according to ISO to critical vulnerabilities? 30 days. Ew.
30 days.
Ah,
Oh,
30
no,
days, wow. No, 30 days.
24
Crit-
hours.
How many hours?
24 hours.
24. Did you say 24, sir?
Hours. Yes.
24 hours. Okay, Jack confirm. Jack confirm. So, recommendation remediation timelines. For critical vulnerabilities, you have 48 hours. And you two are more urgent, Professor Kalawali. So it's 48 hours. You can find all this information. I shared the link to this um, page to you. So it's 48 hours. So I just continue. So I just have to bring that in. So I will say we found three critical failure requirement, failed requirements. So immediate action required. But you don't even need to do much in your reports. This suffices as your report. Just go move on to your risk assessment. So ensure MFA is enabled for the root user account. Very important. You see, severity critical, status fail. Ensure hardware MFA is enabled for root user account. Critical fail. Schedule. So ensure IAM password policy requires minimum length of 14 or greater. You know, these are baseline policies. Nípa password requirements, password policy, a máa ń sọ nípa minimum length, a máa ń sọ nípa password history, a máa ń sọ nípa minimum password age, a máa ń sọ nípa maximum password age. You know, all of this needs to be. So ensure IAM password policy prevents password reuse. This is password history, of course. Medium fail. So analyze gbogbo àwọn kíní fún wa lẹ́yọ̀ kọ̀ọ̀kan. So this is the report. Now let's still go back to our findings. Maybe our findings were we have a total of 70 entries. That means a total of 70 vulnerabilities, which has been classified to critical, high, medium, or low. So I want low. I'm at the corner on low. You just click on this. You can click on it again to show you the critical ones first. So how many critical vulnerabilities do we have? We have just 2 of them. High, MRE Yetani. So now, for each one of them, so you might want to filter based on assets there. Then if you want more filters, maybe according to regions, according to a certain service, you know, you can do that. Fún bí àpẹẹrẹ, tẹ́ bá kàn fẹ́ wo critical vulnerabilities alone, you can just click on that and say apply changes. MRP, you have just the critical vulnerabilities here. You know, you can just filter around whatever you're looking for. I can remove that. Then if I want to filter based on regions, very important. So please, this part is very important. Only jẹ́ cloud assets in it is in Mumbai. If your cloud asset is in Mumbai, for example, what do? You just don't pick everything. Mumbai is AP South 1. So in Katafewa is AP South 1. Just this. Region your Katafe scan here, then you apply your changes. To bá jẹ́ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ ní asset yín sí. So you don't need to search for every other. Shall understand? So now for these, MRP, so region has at least one CloudTrail login. High. So it's failed for this because we need to have a CloudTrail. Tama monitor activities in different consoles, different users of the console. So when you click on this, you see now you see the information about this particular vulnerability. You click on it. Good. So region should have at least one CloudTrail login, but it's failed. So what kind of vulnerability is it? It's a high vulnerability in terms of severity. It has a high risk. So overview. So risk, missing coverage in any region creates visibility gaps. So it says that attackers can use lesser monitored regions to run API actions, which is correct. Hide unauthorized changes and exfiltrate data without audits without audit trails, weakening detective controls, hindering forensics, and delaying response in terms of confidentiality and integrity. So, description: AWS Cloud Trail has at least one trail with logging enabled in every region. A multi-region trail or a regional trail counts for coverage in that region. So now this is giving us a description. This is not telling you what is happening. I can explain in that. Also, a region has at least one cloud trail login. Now, this is not telling you that this particular console has cloud trail enabled. It is telling you that it's failed. Oh yeah, key region you need at least one cloud trail login, but it's failed at that. It doesn't have it. So now, this kind of vulnerability is classified as a high risk vulnerability. Then the most important part is the remediation. How do you remediate? How do you solve this problem? Use a multi-region cloud trail or per region trail so login is active in every region, including unused ones. So centralized logs, enforce least privilege to log stores, and add defense in depth with encryption, integrity validation, and retention. So these are not manual. These are not. You just have to implement one thing. Just go back to your cloud console, and but of course, you're going to recommend this first. Don't risk registering. You recommend it first. Then when you get an approval, then an analyst about on board at maybe our system admin, you tell them to implement some certain things and they implement it. So let's see if our compliance information to you are displayed. Yes. Now the compliance part. Let me see if there are questions. So it's 48 hours. 48 hours. It's 48 hours to respond or to remediate. The compliance part, very important. We have different frameworks. Frameworks support. Any COBIT, any CIS benchmark, any NIST, any CIS, any ISO, àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ, any PCI DSS. So gbogbo àwọn frameworks yìí ní Prowler wa compare configuration wa mọ́ to see if we pass or not. So now a máa ń fi lè gan ṣe internal audit to see beforehand if ṣé a comply àbá comply, are we in check or not, a jẹ́ ká mọ̀. So fún bí àpẹẹrẹ, do we comply to ISO? You can just look for ISO. You see that ISO 27001. If you click on it, you would see that out of 79 controls, we passed for 36 and we failed 49. Section will have failed you. The Annex 9 control, those are on access control. The Annex A12, the Annex A10, those are on cryptographic risk. What is the analysis here? You see that you don't have much work to do. All you just need to do is to explain what you're saying. Now, Tebawu, cryptography, operation security, communication security, and the access control. If you expand it, you'd see that under cryptography, apart from cryptographic controls, méjì fún Annex 10.1, Annex 10.1b. But Annex 10.1c, pass fún killer pass, detect customer master keys scheduled for deletion. So cryptographic controls, check. So we have to check this. So the findings is this: account has a CloudWatch log, metric filter, and alarm for disabling or scheduled deletion, blah, 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 blah. It's failed at that. However, it is a medium risk. So you can click on that to also look at the remediation technique. Remediate, establish a CloudWatch metrics filter and alarm for disable key and schedule key deletion cloud trail event to enable rapid response. So gbogbo compliance framework kan náà la fẹ́ comply to. You are not complying to everything. Tó bá ti bá wa wí as an organization, I'll give you an example. Facebook as a case study. If you look at Facebook is quite comprehensive. It's quite comprehensive. But let us look at some of the data Facebook collects. Don't worry, we'll round up now. I know I'm taking too long. We'll round up the session very soon. I'll just round up now. If you look at Facebook, Facebook will need nǹkan kan. Okay, tẹ́ bá fẹ́ sign in into Facebook, Facebook máa gba àwọn data kan. Let's try it. Let's go to Facebook and let's try to create an account. Try to create an account. Facebook máa béèrè first name, surname, date of birth, gender, mobile number, password. Kí làwọn information tí à ń pè ní? These are personal identifiable information, PII. Now, tá bá padà lọ sórí tá bá wo GDPR, torí GDPR ló wà in charge àwọn protected personal identifiable information báyìí. Click on it, ṣáà comply to it. Ẹgbẹ́ 0 la ní níbi PII. Torí eléyìí máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa security of data. See, no past requirements. We didn't pass anything. Ẹ jẹ́ ká lọ wò Article 25 data protection by design and by default. I failed. So obtain the latest version of the please visit blah 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 of GDPR info. So, root account has MFA enabled. Fail. Enable MFA. Root account has hardware MFA enabled. Fail. Region has at least one CloudTrail login. Failed. Ṣètìlí pé gbogbo aspect tó dì ó ń pa security of data láti fail under GDPR. So, irú Facebook insìn, they have to comply to that GDPR. So, one will compliance with GDPR. Tó bá jẹ́ pé àwọn security controls tá ń lò ti ISO ní àbí ti NIST, they also have to check ṣé à ń comply sí NIST or ISO. They just type in NIST here. So ẹ mọ̀ pé series NIST pọ̀. This is the NIST CSL. This is the NIST 803.53 and there's NIST 861, 53, 53 revision 4, revision 5. So taba wo NIST CSF tó sọ̀rọ̀ nípa GIPDRR. Ṣẹ́rí detect, identify, protect, respond. How many percent lágbà? Ṣẹ́rí pé. So I believe we all understand the overview of what we just discussed, and I believe we can all go about assessing vulnerabilities of our cloud platform. So tomorrow we'll then move into this part, conducting risk assessments and providing assurance across various cybersecurity projects. So we've been able to analyze potential threats and vulnerabilities to inform risk management. I think we're using a different one. So conduct threat and vulnerability assessment to identify potential security risk. So then we then move to analyze and prioritize vulnerabilities based on risk and potential impacts. Develop and implement remediation plans to mitigate identified vulnerabilities. So we'll move on to this tomorrow. Please, are there any questions? We didn't have any class on networking and network security. I'm not sure yet. So okay, I think the risk register template has been shared. Please find the link in the chat box. If you can't get it, I would make sure to we'll make sure to share it. Please also share it on the groups as well. Please help with the one-on-one. Then also the one-on-one chat link. Please send it to them. All right, Ibi Latima drawing. I believe we can all set up Prowler. We can all navigate it and we can use it for our scans. Ibi Latima, stop leaning. Have a very good day, everyone. Bye bye.
All right, thank you.